Here we are. Okay, folks, we are live. Thank you all so much for your patience. It has been a whirlwind of a last day, but thank you all so much for your kind words. I really, really appreciate it. So without further ado, I will kick us off with a Senate prayer I have adapted just for this occasion. So I'll begin us in prayer in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Dear God, we thank you for this opportunity to serve Our Lady's entrusted community over the course of this past year. May we, members of the Student Senate, continue to be servants of hope and instruments of great change as we assume new roles within the campus community and our world. May we listen and lead with humility, kindness, courage, and love. May we develop a community that inspires all to engage in our daily vocation, to be the truest brothers and sisters we can be. May we continue to remember the most important lessons that we have learned from this time together. Lessons to be more compassionate in our daily interactions with one another, and lessons to put the common good at the forefront of everything we do. Through our continued dedication, may we call this community our family and this university our home. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Wonderful. So now for the last time, Catherine will lead us in a roll call. So say here, proud and loud.
Dan Bowden-Diestel? Awesome. Isabella Garcia? Daniel Schermerhorn? Sarah Kirsch? Will Forson? Bridget Arbuckle? Dan Law? Anoop Sunkara? Michael Murakami? Jordan Leiden? Niels Kasperson? Maggie Allen? Peyton Mueller? Eliza Smith? Henry Jackson? Ben Earhart? Jason Thomas? Natalie Ortega? Molly Schrock? Lainey Teeters? Ahmed Al-Hassani? Alec Brayler? Bianca Burnett? Carson Thompson? Libby Messman? Anisha Japira? Michael Lynch?
Here.
Miles Kelly? Alex Kobolowski? Patrick Lee? Grace Franco? Teresa Salazar? Henry Bates?
Here.
Blake Johnson? Johnny O'Meara? Renee Pearson? Jordan Thuralt? Sam Canova? Ricardo Poses Garza? Connor Delaney? Rachel Engel? Madison Nemeth? Aaron Benavides?
Here.
Minu Selvin? Mairead Pfaff? Julia or Kurt? And David Hongs? Esteban Linares? And Karen Kennedy. Awesome, that's everyone.
All right, thanks so much, Catherine. Exciting to see all of your faces in your Wednesday best. We'll now have a brief recap of our minutes from our penultimate meeting.
So last week we passed Senate Order SO 2021-26, proposing an amendment to the Constitution of the undergraduate student body to establish Diversity Council as a special interest org. And then we did the 2021 Student Union Awards, which was super fun. And then lastly, sorry, trying to pull it up. We did the sub-executive director nomination and the assistant student union treasurer's nominations. And that was our meeting last week.
Fabulous. Thanks so much, Catherine, for that last recap. Any questions, comments, concerns about those minutes? All right, then, seeing none, they are approved. And we'll move on to executive announcements, which I'll hand over to Aaron to talk about not only the CLC, but also the Student Advisory Group.
Thanks, Sarah. I'll kick it off with the Student Advisory Group, which met on Holy Thursday. Basically,
the majority of that meeting was spent discussing the details of the email you received on Monday regarding the vaccination efforts of the university and the restrictions that will be lifted or adapted, um, assuming we hit 90% of the student body being vaccinated. So I would encourage you to look at that email in its very all of its details to get all of that information. On top of that, just other things that were mentioned there, that the university would try to put up like a vaccination dashboard so that students could see the numbers, that the public could see the numbers of how many students are being vaccinated and to see how close we are to hitting that threshold, which hopefully we will. There are a lot of questions about what the summer and fall will look like, and I think those, answers really won't come until much later in the summer, probably just because there is a lot of time in between then. Of course, we know COVID is ever changing, so a lot of that will be determined later, but that was something that was brought up as the university now, past the halfway point of this semester for sure, is starting to look further in advance. And then also, as you likely saw in the email today, the university will require all students to be vaccinated for COVID-19 for the fall semester. And so that is another important detail for the fall. But that was the student advisory group on Thursday. Campus Life Council convened on Monday. We are happy to be joined by Aaron Hoffman Harding and Mike Seaman, who are both really taking the charge on student affairs and the university's response to COVID, at least as it affects us. We had a really great conversation with Aaron. Obviously, the specifics, especially in regards to the two Senate resolutions that were passed on to CLC, obviously with the vaccination and the changing, dynamic, that was a little less relevant anymore. But we still did discuss, obviously, the benchmarks, and that's how the COVID dashboard came in, the vaccination dashboard, that is. And so, really had a fruitful conversation. The CLC will meet next week on Thursday at our standing meeting time, and we will discuss basically future plans for the CLC, how we can better establish it structurally and support it and change it so we can have the best relationship possible with the Division of Student Affairs and be as productive and efficient as possible. So those are exciting conversations that will be had over the next few weeks through the end of our term on CLC, which lasts through commencement.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for those two updates, Aaron. And at our next student advisory group meeting, again, you all, if you have any questions, comments, concerns from your constituents going forward, the three of us will continue to serve on that body. So you can always channel those questions through us, as will Alan, Matthew, and Aleeks, who are joining us here this evening. So we'll be no longer a trio, but I don't know if there's a word for six folks, but you can direct your comments, questions, or concerns to any of the six of us in these next few weeks to come. So without further ado, we will move on to general orders, the first of which being SS 2021-37, a resolution acknowledging, defining, and condemning anti-Semitism in solidarity with Jewish students. I'd like to invite any of the co-sponsors up to present this resolution. And as chair, I'll also acknowledge Blake Ziegler, the secretary of the Jewish Club. If he would like to offer a testimony, feel more than free to do so as well. Both of those mics are good for you guys. Just flip them on up.
This works. So Blake was the author on this, and he did an amazing job. So I'm gonna let him take it away.
Thank you, Miles. I just want to express on behalf of the Jewish Club a huge debt of gratitude to student government for their response to last night's Zoom bombing. According to OIT, we still don't know whether or not it was Notre Dame students, but we just want to express our support because whether or not it was Notre Dame students, the fact that it happened represents and is emblematic that anti-Semitism is alive and well in the United States and across the world. For instance, over 1 billion people worldwide have been found to have at least one anti-Semitic belief. In the United States alone, in 2019, we saw over 2,100 incidents of anti-Semitism being committed, and that was a 12% increase from 2018. We see this specifically happening on college campuses, where 43% of Jewish undergraduates, or just Jewish students from ages 18 to 29, 43% of them said that they either experienced or witnessed somebody experiencing anti-Semitic harassment on a college campus. So anti-Semitism is a huge issue in the United States. But one of the main issues behind addressing anti-Semitism is the fact that it's hard to identify and not many people know what it is. For a matter of fact, not many people know what Judaism is. That's mainly because Jews are a very tiny population in the world. In the US, not many people know Jews, and those that do probably don't know that much about Judaism. So if you don't know that much about Judaism, it becomes more difficult to identify and combat anti-Semitism. That's why the Jewish Club spearheaded the university's first Anti-Semitism Awareness Week this week, which was entirely aimed at educating the Notre Dame student body and community on anti-Semitism and ways to combat it. And we firmly believe that the first step in combating anti-Semitism is defining it. Anti-Semitism is elusive in the fact that it has a history of morphing itself behind vague terms and concepts where it's not really about hating Jews, but just hating things that they have done or things that they're associated with, or just things that aren't directly related to Judaism, but still are emblematic of anti-Semitism and prejudice against Jews. So a unified definition, both at home and abroad for the entire world to use, is the way that we go to combat anti-Semitism. And that's what today's resolution accomplishes. The International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance is a 31-member state organization where they're all tasked with basically combating worldwide anti-Semitism and preserving the memory of Holocaust victims. And what they have done when it comes to the IHRA working definition of anti-Semitism is they have provided a comprehensive definition of anti-Semitism, both with examples of what is and is not anti-Semitism, in order to better educate people across the world to both identify anti-Semitism for educational purposes, as well as for data collection for hate crimes and other anti-Semitic events. And then I also want to address a couple of misconceptions with the definition. It is not a speech code. It is not something that will limit free speech on campus. The definition explicitly says that on the any criticism against Israel is completely fine and legitimate if it is a similar criticism that you could level against another democratic government. But if that criticism comes to be something associated with Judaism, such as trying to hold American Jews accountable for the actions of Israel, or accusing American Jews of dual loyalty to Israel, being more loyal to Israel than the United States, that is when it crosses the line into anti-Semitism. But criticizing Israel for its policy, such as its treatment of Palestinians or occupation of the West Bank, that is completely fine and legitimate criticism, and the definition does nothing to stifle that kind of speech on campus or anywhere else that it's being used. The sole purpose of the definition is twofold. The first is to provide an educational tool for organizations to use to address anti-Semitism when it arises. So for instance, if the university adopts the definition, if an allegation is made as to like that an anti-Semitic incident happened, the university would use the definition to determine whether or not that act was actually anti-Semitic. It doesn't prescribe something like a punishment or a specific disciplinary measure. That's for the university or organization to decide. The sole purpose of the definition is to simply be an educational tool to train people to recognize anti-Semitism and to guide those discussions about anti-Semitism. It's also used for data collection. So for like groups that like collect hate crime data, they tend to use the working definition to classify anti-Semitic incidents. It's a global definition, like I said. It's been adopted by 29 states across the world, including the United States, Israel, France, Germany, Britain, and a whole litany of other states. Both the Trump administration and the Biden administration have embraced the IHRA working definition. And then a number of universities across the world have adopted it. It started off in Europe because that's where the IHRA is headquartered, but it slowly started trickling into the United States. Some notable universities that have adopted it over the past couple of years include Stanford, Florida State University, Indiana University, Michigan State University, and then a couple of other places. If you're interested in other countries, I have the list in my bag up there that I can get to you. But the point I'm making is that Notre Dame needs to be the next institution to do this. As far as I'm aware, and based on my research, Notre Dame would be the first Catholic institution to adopt this and would be probably the third or fourth top 25 college to adopt the definition. So there's precedent for it. There's a means for us to do this. And what I'm asking you here today is to demonstrate solidarity with the Jewish community at Notre Dame just as this community has done so many times before, because the only way we can actually fight anti-Semitism is if we define it in the first place. You have to define it to fight it. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that excellent presentation, Blake. At this point, we'll now open the floor for any questions folks may have for Blake or any of the co-sponsors. Oh, Isabella or Kurt. Were you also going to motion, Kurt?
Yeah, Kurt can't motion.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Samuel. Go for it, Kurt.
Oh. Mhm. Oh. Mhm. Oh yeah, for sure. So last night we were hosting, as part of Anti-Semitism Awareness Week, it was a panel of Jewish college students from across the country with the American Jewish Committee talking about their experiences as Jewish students on campus. Prior to the event, a group of people that got the link to the Zoom event just kind of like crashed it. And once they got into the meeting, they started like sharing some lewd messages and like videos. And so we ended up having to stop the meeting, or not really stop it, but suspend participant activities until we could find the people and like kick them out of the meeting. It happened before the event occurred, not during the event. And there was one person with a profile picture that had a swastika in it, but I don't remember whether or not they made it past the waiting room. I'm pretty sure we didn't let them into the meeting, but I remember seeing that. But yeah, we got Zoom bombed last night, and we kicked those people out of the meeting.
Thanks so much for sharing that testimony, Blake. Any further questions at this time? Isabella. Okay, let's vote on that. All in favor? And all opposed? Wonderful. Okay, we've now entered into a debate on SS 2021-37. Would anyone like to raise a point of debate? Yeah, Renee.
I just wanted to voice my full support for this resolution and say thank you to Blake for all of the work that he put into it. He's clearly a super amazing advocate for the Jewish community or the Jewish community on campus. So just thank you, Blake, and I just highly encourage everyone to vote yes on this resolution.
Thanks so much, Renee. Any other points of debate? Eliza. Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Eliza. Other points of debate folks would like to raise at this time? Oh, yeah, Michael. All right, let's vote on that. All in favor? And all opposed? Okay, we are now entering our formal vote on SS 2021-37, and the lovely Madison is preparing a Google form for that vote as we speak. Oh, that's fine. Yes, definitely. Or you can go back to your seat. Either way, Miles.
Do we want the music?
Oh, yes, Aaron will begin the music, and that voting link should be live. Just in the mic stand would be perfect. Thanks so much. I truly appreciate it.
Can you switch it off? Thank you.
No worries.
I think I've turned.
Beautiful.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Will be helpful for our Zoom folks. You're good, Miles. You got 30 seconds.
Actually, 23.
Fabulous.
So sad.
David and I talked about.
Okay. He didn't let me know.
Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's okay. All right, folks, our time is up. Miles Kelly, were you able to vote? Okay, fabulous. Well, I'm happy to announce that SS 2021-37 has passed unanimously. Thank you so much again, Blake, and the entire Jewish Club community for your work on this resolution, and we really hope that the university adopts this definition in the near future. Amazing. So as you all see, we do have the State of the Student Union address next. I would really love that to be a beautiful closing to this week's meeting. I would love to ask you all to move a very brief order off of new business that would require a unanimous vote. This should take, I would say, under 5 minutes. This, if we pass it, would allow the Kavanaugh Hall senator to vote at next week's meeting. Kavanaugh's elections were just a bit delayed, unfortunately, so she wasn't able to be confirmed by us in our last big wave. This was a personal request from Matthew to me, and I'm sure that Alan, Matthew, and Alix would all really appreciate it so she could feel like a full member of the Senate and be able to vote at next week's meeting. I do need a unanimous vote. It's all right if you don't want to hear it. I would appreciate if you heard it. It should be just suspending the election, pretty darn easy. But I will ask now for a vote. Would you all like to hear SO 2021-27? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, fabulous. Thank you all so much for your participation. This will just make Alan, Matthew, and Alix's lives easier, and we're all about a peaceful transition of power because that's a hallmark of democracy. So I will allow Madison to present an order to suspend the Kavanaugh Hall Senate election. This should be pretty darn easy.
Okay, so you guys have seen these before, so I'm not going to read it, but basically no one else is running against Miranda. She's the only candidate, so we are suspending the election so that she is declared the winner. So yeah, if you have questions, we can do that.
Questions, comments, concerns for Madison? Is that Lainey? Yeah. Go for it. Love it. All in favor? And all opposed? Fabulous. We're now in debate. Would anyone like to raise a point of debate? Michael Murakami. Love it. Let's vote on that. All in favor? And all opposed? We'll just do a simple hand vote for SO 2021-27. All in favor? And all opposed? Amazing. You guys gave Miranda the right to vote. Really appreciate that. And we will now move onwards and upwards to our last order of business for the year, which is a State of the Student Union address from Rachel Engel, student body president for 4 more hours.
3 hours and 49 minutes. Who's counting?
You want hand mic? What's that? Okay, go for it.
Hello.
You do you. No, you're fine.
Senators, thank you for joining us at what we will fondly remember as our final Senate meeting of the term, a formal attire nonetheless. What a joy it has been to get to know you and your hearts this year, and I'm grateful for the opportunity you each gave me to share laughter, form friendship, and take action during my time in office. Now that we will soon meet a moment of pause, I wanted to take this final opportunity I have standing with you here today to offer some words of reflection on the growth I've seen through my experience. And if you got my email today, you might have already read these words, but I'm just gonna say it again for you. Back in February 2020, we were elected on a promise to accompany and advocate for all students and to amplify their voices. Just a few weeks later, in the now notorious month of March 2020, Notre Dame brought all students home from study abroad, asked all students living on campus to not return following spring break, and the world as we knew it changed. When we ran for office, we had great ambitions and a vivid vision for improving life on campus. Plans to reverse the restrictive dorm access policy, create partnerships with ride-sharing platforms for students, and enact large-scale programming surrounding events such as the scheduled 2020 presidential debate. However, we were soon attending classes virtually, each of us pinpointing a different spot on a global map, and our hopes and our dreams for our life and community here at Notre Dame began to feel obsolete. We quickly realized that leadership is not about what you want. Rather, it is about what your community needs. Within our first week in office, we pivoted to advocating for the university to house international students who could no longer leave the country, to provide students with reliable internet connection and a prepaid hotspot to get them through a semester of Zoom classes, and to support students whose basic needs were not met in their typical home environments. While we had to jettison a lot of our initial plans, we adopted a mindset of flexibility and resilience early on, which has proven to be a blessing. Although our time in office has been absolutely nothing like we anticipated, the opportunity that you all gave us to serve in these offices has given us more than we could have imagined. We count all the conversations that we've been able to have with students on a daily basis as blessings, and we have been deeply moved by the vulnerability, strength, and courage that many of you have demonstrated when sharing your stories. Over the course of our term, we have learned from passionate club representatives who strive to make Notre Dame more accessible and welcoming, dedicated public servants who give themselves to community efforts and partnerships, and student leaders who provide rallying cries to their constituencies at a moment's notice. Our community has energized us throughout this entire journey, and we have been especially grateful for the hard work of our executive cabinet members as they made great strides in the name of justice and in progress. Thanks to an inimitable team of brilliant minds and bold hearts, we were able to stand with survivors of sexual assault by influencing Notre Dame's new Title IX policies and procedures, provide anti-racism programming through Race Relations Week, attend to student mental health by successfully advocating for break days during the spring semester and providing care packages to students in Q&I, prioritize sustainability in the dining halls by distributing reusable cutlery, enhance structural representation by working with student leaders to elevate the status of both Diversity Council and PRISM ND on student campus bodies, and foster civic engagement and voter education. Every day, we were inspired by their unbridled optimism for what Notre Dame could be and their dedication to see that vision through despite the unique challenges that this year presented. As our term concludes and we approach a time of reflection, we know that we will have the chance to unpack this roller coaster of a ride further and reflect on our moments of pride, as well as what we could have done differently. Although imperfect, we hope you know that we genuinely gave this public service our all. We will welcome this opportunity for retrospection, extremely comforted by the full faith that we have that our successors will be dedicated servant leaders for the student body. Alan, Matthew, and Alix have a sense of compassion that permeates all that they do, and we know them to be great forces for good. We are excited to support them from the sidelines and celebrate their victories. Additionally, we are heartened by the wonderful news that on-campus vaccinations for students will begin tomorrow. Through our service on the Student Advisory Group for Campus Reopening, we have been involved in important discussions regarding the restoration of certain aspects of our communal life if 90% of our student body makes the decision to protect themselves and our community by getting vaccinated. We highly encourage you all to take this opportunity for the good of our community and especially for the most vulnerable members within it. History certainly has had its eyes on us for over this past year, and as we begin to take the first steps towards a new normal, let us remember the most important lessons that we have learned from this time. Lessons to be more compassionate in our daily interactions with one another, and lessons to put the common good at the forefront of everything that we do. The light at the end of the tunnel draws near with each passing day, and we look forward to a full reunion with our beloved community at the end of it. But most importantly, we want to thank you for the opportunity and honor of serving you in what has been quite an unprecedented time, dare I say. You have been generous with your perspectives and abundant with your kindness, and the grace that you showed us as we embarked on a learning curve did not go unnoticed. Through the whirlwind of it all, you helped us stay grounded in why we were here. There is no student body we could have been more proud to represent. Senators, you have given us the ultimate gift of walking hand in hand with us. Please stay in touch. Best of luck on your future endeavors. And of course, keep fighting the good fight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. You will all notice that she was quoting from our final year in review document, which I highly encourage you all to check out because your work influenced it tremendously. As you scroll through, you'll see a number of Senate resolutions, conversations that you had that put actions in place. And we could not be more grateful for the service that you all have given over the course of this past year. And we are so excited to see the ways that you all will continue to shape the Notre Dame community in your years to come. Aaron, would you like to offer any final words as well?
Sure. But before I start with those, please check out the new student government website.
It's Aaron's baby.
Aaron's and Chris's.
And Chris Russo.
Would not have been able to do it without him. But yeah, new website. Please check it out. The Senate page is, might I say, incredibly organized. So if you ever want to reminisce.
All Aaron's good work and Chris's.
And Chris's. And shout out to the marketing communications team for helping us go live in one day, which was insane. I wrote something because I'm not good on the spot. So I want to offer some brief remarks on this final day together. My student government journey was unlike anything I could have expected. I think of a lot of high moments, like planning the 10th annual Back to Bend with my friend Fritz, serving on the campus engagement task force, and just really working in so many different committees and different projects through student government. And obviously this year was really the culmination of that experience, getting to serve alongside two of the most incredible people that I have gotten to know throughout the journey of my life, and who I am sure will do incredible, phenomenal things and make our world a much better place. But thinking through all of those things, I wanted to leave you all with just a little bit of wisdom, the little bit of wisdom I have left at this point. First, you should be proud of the work that you have done this year. I can wholeheartedly say I have been so deeply inspired by the commitment and energy each of you have brought to this body and to the work of the Student Union as a whole. This Senate has been remarkably productive, collaborative, and has worked truly tirelessly to represent the student body. And for that, each of you should be commended. It's been an honor to sit on this body and to witness that in a way that personally I haven't seen in the few years that I've been around. And so be proud of yourselves for that. As you move on from these roles, always remember that this work and the work that you do is important. Oftentimes, a lot of people do not realize that the work that is done in these meetings and all that happens before and after them. Nevertheless, the mission to build a better Notre Dame is our call. Even outside of these roles and in the future, this is the duty that Our Lady calls us to undertake. And if each of us answer this call, we can certainly bring the necessary change to this campus. Lastly, I want to encourage you to always seek out common ground. Disagreement is not a bad thing, but in times of contentious debate, always seek to find a uniting purpose or belief or understanding. Working with administrators or fellow student leaders on a variety of issues can be really difficult at times, as we have seen. But never forget that your common mission is to do what is best for the student body. Only then will you be able to work together and actually do what is best. I want to close by thanking each and every one of you for the work that you have put into this year. I believe in the work of the Student Union because I believe in you, the people who build it up. It is incredibly bittersweet to close this chapter of my time at Notre Dame, but I am filled with hope as I have gotten to know the incredible motivated change agents you all are, and how you will continue to build a better Notre Dame for all. Thank you.
My brief words will be my opening prayer and thank you, because if I speak at this point in the meeting, I will begin to cry, but that's all right. At this point, the next order of new business is enjoy your freedom on Wednesday, April 15th from 7:45 to 9:15 p.m. I may send you another email just for fun, but you won't have to do anything following it. So that's great. Announcements. Mairead. Oh, I'm so excited about this announcement. Thank you so much, Mairead. I'm delighted by that. I'm so excited for In the Heights. Okay, further announcements. Anyone want to have some parting words? Michael Murakami, I'm scanning the crowd before I call on you. Blake. Thank you all. Highly unnecessary, but very kind. Yeah, I found out at this point now an hour ago. So a really lovely day. And there's not a better group of people that I could have shared my coming hours with. So it's been a real pleasure being with you all. I will miss you all in Spain. If any of you are studying abroad in Europe next year, come visit me. I would love to see you. Did I see a hand from Renee?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we should give a round of applause to Rachel, Sarah, and Aaron, in addition to all the seniors in student government this year for their incredible work. So yeah.
And this was really nice, guys. This was an awesome last meeting. Okay, any further announcements, or can I turn it over to Michael Murakami? Okay, I think the floor is yours, my friend. Let's vote on that. Amazing. Enjoy your freedom.